So one thing to know about Camelot Aquatics, he doesn't know really what he's doing. He just kind of does it. So for one, I definitely don't consider myself anywhere near decent at any of this. I used to keep fish when I was a kid, and I loved it so much that for my special birthday, basically just happened to be the age I turned was the day of the month I was born. So since I was born on the 8th of a month, my special birthday was my 8th. My mom had gotten me a 29 gallon, and it had, ironically enough, since I'm older, it was during the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest features were coming out for aquariums, and I got both of them, the Flying Dutchman and the Jack Sparrow one, the figurines, and I loved the tank, kept for a long time. Some things happened where I was no longer able to keep the tank, so we were had forced to kind of move it out. But now that I am out on my own and I have my own fun money and the means to acquire things much easier than asking my mom for a ride, I was able to get my own. And yeah, I it, this is something anyone can do. That's kind of the whole point of this, is to show people that anyone can do this. I have no special skills. I'm not a handyman. I'm not a chemist. I'm not none of that. I just look it up, read it. We all have access to the internet at this point. Otherwise, how would you be watching this video? One thing I will say is, if you're a child and you are trying to do this, I highly, highly, highly recommend having parental supervision. Always ask your parents if it's okay to do these things, simply because this is a flooding hazard. If I live on the second story in an apartment complex, and I made sure our floors are made of concrete, so underneath this hardwood there is concrete. I even asked for samples and blueprints to make sure, because I am very cautious of this. You do not want to set a fish tank. I mean, this alone is probably about 1,000 pounds easily. Not even just filled with water and the things that are in it now. Let alone, plus you add me. I'm standing next to it. That's probably another, 1,000 pound. No, I'm kidding. Probably another 1,300 pounds or so, or 1,300 in total. But one thing I will say is that you do want to make sure that you are doing this properly. You don't want to do this where you're killing fish. That's not fair to the fish. That's not fair to you, because you're expecting to get this beautiful looking aquarium and you're trying to do it with plants and you're trying to do all this stuff. Some people they can't do that. They got to go straight to fish. They want to they want to buy the tank. They want to throw them in as soon as they get home. And believe me, I understand that. And it really was hard for me to realize that when I was a kid, and especially even now that I'm older, since I even know this stuff. Trying to do shortcuts like, fast forwarding with the bio bugs and stuff like that. Trying to produce ammonia so you can cycle the tank, which, if you don't know what cycling is, it is about 1 month where you leave the tank with no fish in it. You put it in there and you put some fish food in there so that way it can start producing ammonia, and then you can start making the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is where you have bacteria, beneficial bacteria, which is bacteria that you want, because not all bacteria is bad. There are good bacteria, like your gut biome. Your gut biome inside people is bacteria, and that bacteria helps you break down all these things. And it's essentially the same idea. Basically, it's so that way when you poop out all that nasty stuff, instead of having all the food that you ate just go out. So it's the same principle here. You make ammonia, which the fish will produce just from their waste, because, if you're a live organism, stuff goes in, something's got to come out. So the fish will produce ammonia, but when you have your first tank and you're cycling it, you don't have any beneficial bacteria. So you're just putting regular water in. And always check your water parameters first. I know I'm kind of all over the place. This is like my second video on YouTube. I'm not very great at this. It will come with time, probably. I mean, if this is proof enough that, anyone can do the fish tanks, I'm sure this means as well anybody can do the YouTubes. Why not? Even if it doesn't work out, no one sees it, whatever. This is something I'm passionate about and something I just want. Even if one kid decides to see this and decides, you know what, I want an aquarium, I think I can do it. I don't know if I can do it. I'm telling you right now, you can do it. Anyone can do this. This is not hard, unless you have health problems that don't allow it. But the nitrogen cycle, it goes from ammonia to nitrite to nitrate, and you have it circulate. Usually you have to do water changes all the time, usually about once a week, once every 2 weeks. However often you do it. Some people do it once a day. I know some people that have never done a water change. But what the benefits of having the plants is you don't have to do as many water changes because the nitrates aren't building up. Instead, they're being circulated through the plants. The plants are growing, and they're using that nitrate and some of the ammonia. They'll take all of that and they'll turn it into oxygen. That's how they feed, especially these aquatic plants. Now, when you have too many nitrates, you end up, and this is mostly my tank just because I added this sand not that long ago, you'll end up with all this brown stuff. This is called diatoms. This is not really a type of algae, but is considered an algae. This is single-celled organisms that will culture and combine together to make these long strands. If you notice on this little Ludwigia, there are strands floating around it. That is usually hair algae or diatoms. So what happens is these diatoms, they're thriving off of the extra nutrients. They're, especially since it happens a lot more with sandy tanks because of the silica from the sand. Which if you get natural sand, sometimes you don't have to deal with it. I got this from a local lake that happened to be sand. Unfortunately, I did end up with some silica because I found out it was man-made sand when they poured it to make the lake. So it is sandy and it is causing silica. But what happens is I now have so many nitrates floating around because not all these plants are new. A lot of these really fast growers and stuff like that, they're still new. They're still establishing. Like this is only a week old, and it started all the way down like that really, really bottom one. The only reason it's taking off is because it's in such ample growing conditions where it's trying to take in so much of the nitrates and everything that it's just outcompeting, especially with these really bright lights. I will say, if you're going to keep the plants, stick to low light plants as long as you can. Because the moment you get anything that requires higher light, more nutrients, higher maintenance, pruning all the time, you will end up having to invest a little bit. These lights right here, I actually, funny enough, I ended up actually getting one of the Fluval 3.0s for free because Amazon messed up and sent me two, and they didn't want to pay the return shipping. It's a $300 light. I don't understand why they wouldn't, but that it was a benefit to me. I tried to do the right thing, called and everything, but they just told me to keep it. The middle one is a Higer. It was $75. It wasn't that much, and it does ample lighting. I just don't like it because it does not work all the time. It turns off randomly, or it will shut off early, and it never turns on in the middle of the night, but it will not turn to the right times. It will turn on late, or it will turn off early. That's really the only issues, so I just leave it. Whenever I remember to turn it on, I turn it on. If it's not on, not a big deal. I have the other two lights, and I have more than enough at light. The big reason I have three is so I can start doing these, it's called, I believe, a riparium. I've watched a couple videos. I can't remember the guy's name, but very, very good information on YouTube about it. Usually if you just look it up, it's like the first video that pops up. But doing this, it's causing all those nitrates that are down in here, like what we were talking about with the nitrogen cycle, all the nitrates that are in the tank, it's not enough for all these plants, or it's too much for all these plants. Sorry. That's why we're getting these diatoms. That's why we're getting these algae. That's why, if you notice, there's black algae everywhere, which is something you're gonna deal with, but it's nature. You're bringing nature into your home, and you're trying to change nature. Algae is normal. If you don't have algae, you have an issue. The big thing is that you are trying to get the tank balanced. So, I have too many nitrates. So what did I do? I went out and bought some dang plants that are houseplants. Now these houseplants, look it up, because not all plants you can do this with. And also you want to look up whether your animals can be around them. This, it's toxic to cats. This, toxic to cats. Toxic to cats. Now it's toxic. That does not mean it's fatal. Normally, all they'll do is they'll eat this and they might throw up. They might get diarrhea. Things like that. Which, you know, it does suck and it definitely isn't the funnest, but it happens. So, you get those though. And if you notice, I got these for free. I picked them up, went on Facebook, just looked up a local community page that has free plant swapping and stuff like that, and I was able to get them. That's also the same way that I actually got my Siamese algae eater, and a lot of these plants, that red tiger lotus in the back, I got that for free. Did not pay for it. And that's one thing I will suggest is that, you know, be resourceful. Look into these things because you can find stuff for free. I found 120, 150 gallon tanks with stands for free because people are moving and they don't want to lug it with them across the state, you know? So I always suggest be resourceful. There's no reason you're not. You might save yourself. I mean, even if it was the dollar per gallon deal at Petco during that time of the season, you know, this would be $75 still. I didn't pay any of that. I paid $10 for gas to haul it back and forth with my dad's truck. Not a big deal. But what the benefit of these houseplants are, they have large roots. Like, if you can't see this pothos, it doesn't have much. I'm sorry, Buddy's in the way, but it doesn't have much of roots, but it came from a potted plant. They love the camera. I don't know why. But they have these roots on them. And these roots are beneficial because you just put them in there and they'll suck up nitrates like no other. And especially since they have this exposure to open house, you know, atmosphere, basically just the, you know, from breathing, animals, dust, stuff moving around and being broken down makes CO2. So CO2, these plants being exposed to this open atmosphere has a lot more CO2 access and it's unlimited, you know? And that's the reason I really wanted to do this, was so that way I could, you know, clean up my own home air, but it's very beneficial. Same thing with this Monstera. There's a lot of roots down there. It's ridiculous. If I took it out and I were to fill this pot with just the roots, this pot would be way too full. Like, the roots would still be coming up about that high off of it. Like, a couple of inches. Probably, like, my whole hand, honestly. But it's going to be sucking up those nitrates. So it's going to help with the algae. It's going to outcompete it. And there's no issue. And then that way, all the other plants, they can suck up whatever's left. And we won't have this algae issue. Now, I just want to say, I know I'm jumping everywhere. Sorry. Very new to this. I'm just trying things out. I just have recently gotten over some mental issues and getting my things all straightened out. Not really, like, getting into it, but just, I finally have the time. I'm in a better headspace. I'm able to do this stuff. Very fun. Very nice. It's not hard. I highly suggest everyone do it. It brings a little zen, a little nature, and nothing beats just listening to some nice music with a pair of scissors and just cutting up some of these plants and getting all these dead leaves out of here. But yeah, this has been Cam Aquatics. Please subscribe if you can. If not, you know, it's up to you, man. I'm 100%. If you like it, like it. If you hate it, hate it. You know, let me know in the comments. Just anything helps. Even if you know all of this stuff and you're just watching this because you're like me, you just like watching fish videos, just comment. Say, hey, man, you know, it looks great. Or, hey, it looks terrible. You know, you should really be doing this and this and this. I am absolutely trying to find advice on all of this stuff. This is still new to me. But I'm letting you know, I've been doing this for about 2 years now. Fish keeping, again, and plants. The plants is really newer to me than the fish. But I've been doing this only 2 years, and I mean, I'm not doing bad. I've lost some plants, but for the most part, that Amazon sword in the back, that's the first plant I ever got. It's still alive, and it's still cooking. You know, it's doing well. You know, it's hard to forget to water plants when they're underwater. So yeah, of course you got to do fertilizers and stuff, but we'll do that later. We'll talk about that more later. We have all the time in the world. Alrighty. Well, this has been Cam Aquatics. Thank you for your time. Please like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want to do. It's a free world, free fish resource, man. It's not hard. And I just want to let everyone know you're loved, you matter, and no matter what anyone tells you, you be who you are. Because nothing will ever replace you. You're important. To me, even if I don't know you, you're important. All right.